Apartheid in South Africa crumbled after Nelson Mandela walked to freedom, but black people suffered decades of government-backed injustice before it did. Apartheid really began in 1948, but separating black Africans from the white minority had long been a policy aim. Laws made white people officially superior, and the large black majority faced discrimination in every aspect of their lives. Living, doing business or owning land in white areas was banned. There were separate public facilities, transport and schools. Interracial marriage was banned. Many had no right to citizenship and were regarded as aliens in major cities. Instead, they were made citizens of Bantustans, homelands scattered throughout South Africa. But resistance grew. In 1960, a huge peaceful protest against past laws ended in a massacre at Sharpeville. 69 people were killed. The deaths galvanized opposition, radicalizing liberation movements like the ANC.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence.
Open conflict erupted in the 1980s, with anti-apartheid activists frequently shot at, beaten or arrested. Mass protests were firmly put down. But little by little, the apartheid establishment crumbled. After gradual reform, Nelson Mandela, imprisoned since not long after Sharpeville, was set free in 1990. 4 years later, he was elected as South Africa's first black president. Apartheid had ended.
What up, y'all? It's your man, Abuamerican. Man, yeah, I'm getting ready to do some exercise. I'll probably record it, make a couple videos on that. Gonna get back in shape here. I'll make some videos on, some exercises I do. But anyway, I want to talk about, Lauren Southern and her dishonesty that she's going through. I don't think she should have been banned from the UK. She got banned from the UK recently for life. But I do, I want to address something else. She did this video that's getting a lot of traction lately on the white genocide taking place in South Africa. And under no circumstances am I saying what's happening to white people in South Africa is correct. It's not. Oppression is oppression regardless of who's doing it. But what's dishonest about Lauren Southern and her documentary is that it cuts out everything that led up to today. It removes all of the buildup historically and contemporarily that led up to the moment that you're seeing happening right now. Let's be real. Let's face the reality here. The apartheid state of South Africa were the Nazis of our time. There was a Lethal Weapons movie, with Danny Glover and what's his name, the other guy. I forgot his name. It's funny, I remember the black guy's name and not the white guy's name. Mel Gibson, where South Africans were the bad guys. They were just the literal bad guys. They were the straight, get punched in the face Nazi bad guys, Everybody wants to punch the Nazis in the face, and that was the movie. And it was the apartheid South Africans that were the bad guys.
I don't think you really want to go to South Africa.
Why not?
Because you're black.
You are. He is.
Of course I'm black. That's why I want to go to South Africa. To join up with my oppressed brothers. To take up the struggle against the tyranny of the racist, fascist, white minority regime.
Fascist white regime.
One man, one vote?
One man, one vote.
Free South Africa, you dumb son of a bitch!
You dumb son of a bitch.
Look, I've heard just about it.
In our time, there was no one else who was more derided, internationally and in films, I think, than South Africans after the Nazis. They were just the bad guys. All of a sudden, Lauren Southern forgets about the apartheid state and its brutality that it exacted as a state against the indigenous black population. And when power was handed over to black people, and black people are still living crappy lives because of the apartheid state, and there are still white-only communities in South Africa. There was just recently a case where, some white people, were torturing black people in South Africa in one of their townships where they're, have their own armed security and whatnot and all this stuff and their own, their own justice system and law enforcement and whatnot. This stuff is still going on and people are still living crappy lives from this. And so people are angry because they are still, within their lifetimes, seeing and living in the after effects of apartheid state. There are people who are alive to this day, me for one, who were alive when the apartheid state was still like full in swing and straight up oppressing people and like killing them and beating them and, you know, just doing horrible things to them. I remember this stuff distinctly. Lessons in school. Entire movies made about it. What Lauren Southern's doing is just removing all of the historical oppression of black people in South Africa, the indigenous people, you know, of South Africa, by a foreign people. And if you are white or Asian or whatever else, you know, you got the Southeast Asians there, the Indians and the Pakistanis, you are a foreigner in Africa. You're a foreigner. You're an outsider. I, as a black person, accept that I am an outsider in Europe. You, as white and Asian people or whatever else, need to accept that you're outsiders in Africa. You can't just automatically pick up the victim card and be like, oh, us poor old white people, blah, blah, blah. What did we do to deserve this? Well, you oppressed an entire people under an entire special government that everybody hated, to the point that Hollywood made movies against you. And anyone who says otherwise, I can go dig up some nice black and white footage and some color footage of the South African government, straight up the apartheid South African government, straight up shooting people, beating them, whatever else, for protesting for simple stuff that they should have access to, rights, services, whatever else, in their own country. Y'all act like you ain't seen this before, like Hitler and the Jews. You know, really, when you look at it, and I'm not justifying what Hitler did, don't say Abuamerican's, you know, Nazi, but really, when you look at how the Jews were treating Germans, that was payback, what they did. They were angry Germans, and that's why the Jews didn't get any nice treatment. Well, I hate to say it, but the white people of Africa, they are like the Jews of Europe now. It's just you're in Africa, and black people are angry. You can't cut out the entire historical lead up to the moment that you're at right now and act like you're just a bunch of victims. It didn't work like that. That's not how it happened. And it's very, very dishonest for Lauren Southern to act like that's the story. Maybe the British were right for banning her, actually, once I think about it. You know, would you really want a person like that inside your country? Someone who would come along and stoke up racial hatred and anger between people? It already exists, obviously. Black people are angry. They shouldn't be, you know, oppressing white people now that you've got the power, now that you've got, you know, the hand up. You shouldn't be oppressing them. Fine, fair enough. That's accepted. I accept that. But let's not just say that black people are angry because you're white and they just don't like you because you're white, and now they want to oppress you because they're just a bunch of bad guys and that's what they do. You know, that's just bad, man. I mean, it's so intellectually dishonest that I'm having a hard time. I'm having a very difficult time even articulating how to address this oversimplistically, you know, transparent tactic that she's pulling. It should be obvious to anyone who doesn't have the attention span of a TV commercial that historical injustices happened in South Africa. And these historical injustices, actually even contemporary if we think about it, were what? Executed at the hands of what? The white apartheid South African government. And when they no longer had power, what did you think was going to happen? People were going to get payback. And that's what this is. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of hurt, and that's what we're seeing. People with anger and hurt. Now that anger and hurt, unfortunately, is divided upon race lines. But who started that? The apartheid government, which was what? White. But does Lauren Southern cover all this in her videos? No, it's just, oh, boo-hoo, poor white people are being oppressed. Let's not look at why people are angry and trying to oppress them. You're never going to come to a solution like that. People are going to get mad. It's going to just lead to a lot more trouble again. But whatever. This is your man, Abuamerican. Catch me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Steam it, all at Abuamerican. I'm out.